but to, but to but to provide a proper framework where all of us can generate some revelatory ideas. And so I hope that this this experience tonight will help us to strengthen our chapters and to give us a clearer vision as to what we can do as an organization leadership. Okay, so if John, I don't know if you are able to, am I available to or able to present a PowerPoint?
You can on your share the screen, your
Okay.
screen.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and share this. And let's see. All right. Are you able to see this PowerPoint presentation that I have that has the title Strengthening Our Chapters? Can everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, well, brethren, let's then begin. The framework with which I would like to end with, the desired outcome is to help us to see clear connections and also relevant resources in everything that we do with Sons of Utah Pioneers. So with those two specific governing ideas and principles, I want to just share with you what I mean by this. First of all, is there anybody in this group that does or has enjoyed the sport of running? Anybody in this group that in their past or even currently is in that realm? I see Tom's hand raised. Who else? I don't see a lot of other hands. I'm kind of not able to see the.
More of a spectator, Kyle.
More of a spectator?
Got a grandson that does a lot of running.
Oh, cool. Cool. So I'm going to pick on Tom for a second. Tom, when you are you a current runner or was it in your past?
That was in my high school days, basically.
Okay. And was it cross country? Was it sprinting? What was your joy?
It was distance running,
Okay.
a little bit of competition, but
Great. You know, I'm similar. I ran some in high school. I played college baseball, and so we did a lot of running and a lot of things. And it was part of my routine to run to make sure that we stayed in shape, and that there was a lot of joy that I found when I had these goals of running. I never ran a marathon. I have a friend that has just run his 13th marathon, and he's invited me to come run with him. And I said, no, thank you. But it's very impressive running. And I remember the euphoria of it. But, you know, my wife and I currently, we enjoy walking. We enjoy taking our walks. And yet I'm going to be honest with you, whether it is running or even our daily walk, you know, getting up in the morning, especially now that it's getting a little bit more brisk and a little bit more cold. Some of us who used to really enjoy these activities have found that when they think about doing these things today, this is the picture that comes to their mind when they think about starting a walk or a race. So I'm seeing some smiles on some faces, and I think everybody is in agreement that that's more along the lines of what we sometimes think when we go, okay, I'm ready to go run. Here's the reason why. Sometimes we desire the starting line and the finish line to become the same thing because running or walking has become more of a chore or a duty instead of that satisfaction and joy that it used to be. I'm finding, and I don't know if you are finding the same thing, that sometimes our lives are so busy and sometimes we are filled with so many good things that just as this start line and this finish line is in our minds, sometimes we find ourselves lacking motivation or sometimes even joy in our efforts to strengthen our chapters because we are more focused on what we need to do and we forget to connect it with why we are doing it. I want to spend the first little part of this message talking to us about the what we do and the why we do it here in Sons of Utah Pioneers. And being new to this organization, I was drawn to SUP for a lot of different reasons. Having been put in leadership and having leadership opportunities, I have even found myself going,
Very good.
If I'd have done it on my phone, I could have had my hearing aids.
sometimes we do, sometimes we are so focused on what we do that I have to step back and remind myself why we are doing this and what is the joy that is coming from this as I spend some time making phone calls and recruiting and doing a lot of other things to help us to maintain such a great organization. I started to go through this idea of the what we do, and I basically took our chapter in excellence paper, and you know, there is some power behind having a chapter that is excellent, but there are a lot of things to do if we are going to have an excellent chapter. And sometimes we get so focused on what we do to be an excellent chapter that I do fear sometimes that we are missing the power that comes from connecting it with the why we do it. And I'll share this in just a second, but I started to look at what we do became, and for our discussion a little bit later today, the what we do portion really was very interesting to me because I started to say, well, a lot of these things that we do are the management and the efforts to explore and to expand resources that we have. That's what we're doing. In fact, just take a look at this list that I chose from the chapter in excellence thing to highlight. Here are some of these resources of what we do. We have a Pioneer magazine that is wonderful. We have a Modern Pioneer Award. We have chapter meetings. We have treks, newsletters, a wonderful trail marker. We have an SUP online that is really good. We have monuments and historical markers in the Western region all over the place that are absolutely beautiful to have and wonderful resources that we maintain. We have Pioneer era structures. We have SUP student scholarships. These are just a few of the resources that I pulled off of the Chapter in Excellence Awards. Now, why do I focus on these resources? Because sometimes we are so focused on the what or the resources that we do forget about the why. The why we do things is actually contained in our mission statement for the Sons of Utah Pioneers. That mission statement being, come to know our fathers and turn our hearts to them. One of our mission statements and why we exist is to preserve the memory and heritage of the early pioneers of the Utah Territory and the Western US. Another outcome that helps us to realize why we exist is we get to honor present day pioneers worldwide who exemplify these same qualities of character we're studying about and trying to preserve. We also get to teach these same qualities to the youth who will be tomorrow's leaders. Now, brethren, I want to take just a second, and what I've entitled these is the desired outcomes. Now, what I would like to do just for a minute is I want you to just have a mental exercise. And I want you to see if we can clearly see the connection between the resources that we have and how connecting it and using those properly will actually lead us to our desired outcome of the mission statement. So if you will take just a minute, and will you just choose one resource, one or two, whatever you would like. But as you take a look at these resources, I'm gonna go out of this PowerPoint for a second so that we can all see each other. Let's see here. Maybe if you could, well, actually, I apologize. I don't know how this is going to work if you're not seeing this. Let's go ahead and just have a few of you go ahead and unmute yourselves. And will you make sure that, again, this isn't anything new, but it's just a good reminder to realize that when we have a resource and we're using it properly, why is it important that it exists? In other words, what part of the mission statement is it helping to fulfill when we use this resource properly? Okay, so anybody willing to pipe in and share some ideas? I would love some participation at this point.
Well, Dill Strasser here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Bill.
I've been involved for years with the SUP student scholarships. And I think the reason that we have those student scholarships, and many chapters are doing it, is to teach the same qualities to the youth who will be tomorrow's pioneers. And of course, to honor the present day pioneers because they came into the Salt Lake Valley, and we're in the Salt Lake Valley, for example, in our case, and we can honor some of those, but mainly to, when we did our scholarship program, we have the 10 pioneer values, and we have each scholar write a paragraph, not a sentence, a paragraph about each of those values, how they have played into their lives and what effect they've had on their lives and the good that it's had by work and dedication and overcoming obstacles and working belief in God and those types of things. And I think that's been a wonderful resource, the student scholarship program.
That is beautiful, Dill. And, you know, I think about that idea that if we gave them a scholarship and presented it without some powerful purpose on their end, it was just given to them, it's not as appreciated as much. It's not, it doesn't fulfill the mission of SUP if it becomes just money given to them by a good group of gentlemen. But when it's done because they did something that was to help teach them these same qualities to be tomorrow's pioneers, there's power in that when it's connected to the real reason for the scholarship, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. And we also get them to sing the song Carry On. They have a responsibility to carry on the heritage that they themselves, their parents, no matter where they've come from, that they stand on their shoulders because of them, and that they have a responsibility to carry on and be good examples for their pioneer ancestors, no matter what country they came from.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Love it. Thank you, Dill. Anybody else have any connections that they see there? And by the way, we are going to get into the application of it in detail in just a little bit. So keep going with what your thoughts are, but just know that right now our intent is just to see if we can make sure we clearly see the connection between the resource and the desired outcome. So what else do you see?
So of course, the Pioneer magazine is the finest magazine that's produced around, and we get so many comments about the Pioneer magazine, people who love the magazine, and a lot of them are not members of the SUP, but probably would be if they were asked and introduced to it a little bit, because they enjoy the magazine so much. I think they would appreciate some of the other listed resources and benefits that they can have. But there's no getting around the Pioneer Magazine as a starship of the SUP.
And Dill, if you were to connect it to what mission statement it's fulfilling, which one would you connect it to? Or which bullet points?
Preserving memories and the heritage of our early pioneers, because most of them, a lot of the issues talk about that, but also honoring present day pioneers worldwide. We try to get people in there that we honor too also.
Absolutely. As well as coming to know our fathers and turning our hearts to them. Great articles.
Yeah, it applies to it. Yeah, very much.
Absolutely. And I would also suggest this is an opportunity to teach these same qualities to the youth who will be tomorrow's pioneers. I have some students that I have shared the Pioneer magazine with, and they love it. When those that love history have really appreciated having a magazine that actually they're looking at it going, oh, there's some good history out there that I need to know about. So I think the Pioneer magazine nails all four of them.
Well, and the Pioneer magazine goes to thousands of people.
Yeah.
Scholarships go to hundreds of people.
Right.
And Modern Pioneer Awards go to several people. So they have each item has a different type of impact, the resource. And so I think sometimes our resources are best used where the most people are exposed to them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Gentlemen, I want to move. Oh, is there somebody else that wants to comment?
I was going to say, go ahead.
This is John Smith. I think one of the resources not listed that's important is the library.
Yep.
And it is a function that's in the chapter excellence because it talks about projects that can be done in the library. And all of these mission statement sentences apply to the library because we do that. We preserve the memories of all of those areas, both the early pioneers, the essays, and scholarships, information that's given to us, the newsletters, the treks, the Pioneer magazine, all of those things are available for people to see. And one of our desired outcomes is that we want to let the chapters know that they can use this, and we're trying to make it available to them a lot better than we have in the past.
Wonderful.
John, that is perfect. I am going to add that one down there for make sure that is on one of those resources. I apologize for that. And that is, again, the library itself can hit all four of those bullet points so beautifully and with benefit. I love that. And we'll talk further about that when we get to another exercise with that. So thank you for bringing that up, John.
I would like to also ask you to consider the annual conference, the encampment.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2.5 odd days of doing all that mission statement. I know it's mostly with members as opposed to non-members, but it still allows a lot of socialization among the members on these subjects. I know it's only once a year, but it is definitely a great resource.
It's a tremendous resource that we can absolutely leverage that will help many people come to know our fathers and turn our hearts to them, seeing what has been preserved in the memory of this and heritage of these early pioneers, honoring present day pioneers, as well as, I don't know how to specifically teach these same qualities to the youth with the encampment, but I'm sure there's some ideas that we could generate with that. So beautiful. I love that. Any others before we move on?
I've got one idea.
Please.
And it's when I first started on the board, is that we have an award that we gave out to the Boy Scouts. And it kind of took and taught the qualities of to the youth of the pioneers. And I have continued to try to get other people involved with it. And it's an excellent thing that you could use in your young men's or even young women's organizations, where there's about 6 or 7 things they do. And one of is a pioneer history and learn about the places and the importance. Another one is write a short experience of what their feelings are. And we could use this if we had a group of them come and talk to us in our chapter meeting. We just don't know how to do.
It's awesome.
And then, huh? And
That's
then,
awesome. Keep going.
And then find out about the earliest pioneer or individual in their area and research and find out about them. What we're trying to do with that was pull the kids in. And I used this one night when I was a Cub master as our Cub meeting, as that premise. And we had a boy come in whose grandfather was interred in the Topaz Mountain during World War II, and he had no idea of it. And he learned about that and learned about his qualities. And that's what we want to do, is teach those things and teach that history to the young people so they don't repeat it and they can learn from it. So that's another resource we had. You don't have listed here, but it kind of fills in every one of your ideas, and particularly teaching the youth the principles of honesty, hard work, and the other ones, ideals of the SUP.
That is beautiful, John. Beautiful. And in fact, brethren, we are so, I'm really, really excited about this, because what I would like to do is I want to just, again, the two principles that I wanted to make sure we are understanding tonight are, number one, the clear connections. If we are just going about using the resource without realizing the power of what we can accomplish by using that resource effectively, sometimes we get caught in the trap of just doing certain things without really empowering that resource to become reaching our real outcomes. And so there's power in seeing clearly the connection between the resource and the desired outcome. Now, many of you have gone to the application of this. This is where we now can really get a lot of ideas in our chapters as we take this next level. It's going to be similar in conversation, but a different type of framework. And that happens to be what we, when we go to number 2, the relevance of a resource. As I was trying to prepare for tonight, I started to think about, and I think, John, with your library and the library resource, and John Clayton, as you're talking about this BSA and young men, young women opportunity for the award and these other additional resources that we can use, I think it is so interesting that once we see a resource connected with the desired outcome, the relevance of that resource really comes to life. And then all of a sudden, we want to use that resource because we see what it can do in the lives of the people that we serve. I started to go through some scriptures and some journals, and I came up with this pattern of what I believe is a true principle here. Here's what I would suggest. If it's true that the relevance of a resource is revealed when it's connected with the desired outcome, when it's clearly connected to a desired outcome, I want you to take a look at 1 Nephi 17, where Nephi is being asked to build a ship. The Lord says, "It came to pass that the Lord spake unto me, saying, Thou shalt construct a ship after the manner which I shall show thee, that I may carry thy people across these waters." Now, interestingly enough, if we stopped with only the information in verse 8 and we didn't have any other information, the constructing of a ship would be very tedious. And no wonder Laman and Lemuel didn't want to leave Bountiful, because building a ship is hard. But what does the idea and message, what happens when we take a look at what the Lord says a little bit later in verse 13, where he tells Nephi the the real reason why they need to construct a ship. And that is, wherefore, inasmuch as ye shall keep my commandments, ye shall be led towards the promised land. And ye shall know that it is by me that ye are led. The ship construction really does become a little bit more palpable when Nephi realizes that, oh, there's a real major reason why we're building this ship. It's not just to cross waters, it's to cross waters to a promised land where we can keep covenants and we can do all kinds of wonderful things. And so that desired outcome that the Lord wanted to show Nephi really does have an effect on the importance of that ship and motivates us to work harder. I found this quote from Wilford Woodruff. I think this is another example of connecting the resource to the desired outcome. If it's just the resource, it is good, but it loses its power and importance if we don't connect it with the desired outcome. Wilford Woodruff said this: I piloted the road in the afternoon as straight as any road that had been made on the whole route, and picked out a good camping ground on the bank of the river in good feed. This actually is just outside of Chimney Rock, by the way. This is the daytime area that he is, or the travel area that he's in as he's writing this journal. Now, again, if we're looking at the road and creating a road, if we do not connect it with the vision of why this road is being built, then we're losing its importance and its power. So how does the road increase in importance when it's connected with what Elder Woodruff is really feeling here? He continues in that same journal entry the following statement. He says, it should be understood that we are piloting a road for the house of Israel to travel in for many years to come. Therefore, this road, requires the greater care. Brethren, when we really, really, really know why we're doing things, the what we do becomes very relevant. And there becomes power in what we're trying to accomplish in everything that we're trying to do. So let me just share with you how we're going to complete this with the remainder of my time. For the next half hour, we're going to generate ideas, and we're going to really expand our understanding of the relevance of the resource because it's clearly connected with the desired outcome. So here's the framework with which I'd like us to take a look at. And again, please add more resources than what I have. These were just a few that I fit on this slide. So like the library and the other awards talked about, please add to the resources. But having said that, we have things that we, in this first sentence, how has an individual SUP member, for example, used or been benefited by this resource as they have come to know, as we use this resource to come to know our fathers or preserve their memory or honor present day pioneers or teach the same qualities to youth. That is what we're looking at. So we need to look previous, how have or has this resource done it, or how can this resource be benefited or used in a way that will reach a desired outcome. For example, I have chosen this just to give us a model of what this looks like. How can a local SUP chapter use or be benefited by the Modern Pioneer Day Award as we seek to honor present-day pioneers worldwide who exemplify these same qualities of character? Well, simply put, if we remember that the whole outcome is to really, truly honor present-day pioneers, and we use the Modern Pioneer Day Award to do it, how's that going to bless our local chapter? Well, I thought through this because we just did one this last summer that was just phenomenal in our chapter. And I think that this is what can be done. A local chapter can use the Modern Pioneer Award resource as a way to seek meaningful input from its chapter members. This award or resource can be leveraged to help local chapter members feel a part of something big as they consider people in their lives that they have come to appreciate and feel like they could honor. You see, if we just do it as a board or even just one or two people, then we are limiting the power that we could leverage this with a local SUP chapter. Expanding the idea of saying, here's what the Modern Pioneer Day Award is. Here's what it is trying to do to honor present day pioneers. And we would like recommendations. We would like you to think about, pray about, consider who in your life would be somebody that we could honor in a great, magnificent way. And even if their person is not selected, the experience can generate meaningful reflection and awareness. Now, the second bullet point says a local chapter can be benefited by this, using this award, by gaining a reputation of respectability. If the chapter will properly honor the individual as they are intentional in selecting that individual and are deliberate in the manner in which the individual family and friends are even notified. If it's a last minute, hey, we're giving you an award next week, come on over and great stuff. But if you say things like, hey, we're giving you this award and we want family and friends and your associates and people, we're proud of this this award, and we really want to honor you in a great way. So will you give us a list of people that we can contact? Can we have a little biography of a little bio of information to let us know a little bit about who you are and other things that you have accomplished? And then even the presentation in the methods prepared can really honor that present day pioneer and that the local chapter can be proud of. So, brethren, that is an example of what I'm talking about, of saying the relevance of this resource is really revealed when we connect it to the desired outcome to really honor present day pioneers and what we can accomplish with that. So, having said that, I want to spend the bulk of our time now for the next 20-25 minutes, and I want you to just talk. Let's what has been used, or how has a person or people involved been benefited, or how have they used this resource to fulfill the mission statements that we have laid before us? Or how can we use or be benefited by this resource as we seek to fulfill our mission statement? So, brethren, I just want to open this up because we're just going to have a lot of great institutional knowledge, old ideas that can be used, as well as new ideas that can be generated as we look at how to increase our use of these resources in powerful, important ways. So let's hear, what do you have?
Carl, maybe I'll just start, if it's okay. The Timpanogos chapter in its scholarship presentations, which Dale mentioned so well, is important. We bring the scholarship recipients to the Timpanogos chapter meeting with their parents. And we also have the opportunity to have pictures and a great article in the Timpanogos Times newspaper, which then extends the purpose of letting people know the histories and the mission statement even into the community. I think that's kind of what we're doing, according to what I hear you saying we should be doing.
Absolutely. And so, what are some ways, Tom, that that this resource can be leveraged to it's meeting the mission statement need? So are there additional thoughts that you have about how this could benefit the individual SUP members or the local chapter or a potential SUP member or even the community? Is there any additional thoughts where you say, I wonder if we could even tweak this or add this or accentuate this to that would even make it better?
Well, there's two other things, Kyle, that I maybe should have mentioned. We try to invite the sponsors, business sponsors of the scholarship awards to the meetings and have them help make the presentation. But we've also been greatly blessed because the Alpine School District, which covers the area of our chapter, has the officers of the school district have been very, very impressed with our chapter, very supportive of what we're doing for scholarships, have been the gratitude that they've displayed for the good of the Sons of Utah Pioneers and the histories that we're developing has extended far beyond our chapter meetings.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And for those of us who our chapters are not connected with the school districts, that then potentially gives us an idea to say, why are we limiting this scholarship to just a chapter situation and the family situation? How can we include the community on this? I like that. That's beautiful.
On that note, with the same subject, our Porter Rockwell chapter is doing the same thing. One of the things that we added is that we invited the high school student, the recipient of the scholarships, to come to a chapter meeting and actually give a talk, a presentation on the experience they had when they did the paper that we had them write. And then they explained to our local chapter members during a chapter meeting the experience they had, which has turned out to be a wonderful experience, both for the high school students that are getting the award, as well as the members who get to see it in action right in front of them.
That is beautiful, Bill. Do you have them do that at the same time it's being presented or at a future date? Just curious.
A future date. They get their presentations, and in our case, we did 4. So we took each one of the 4 and invited them back over the next couple of meetings to get them based on their schedule. Some of them were seniors and were graduating and so forth. So we had to get them plugged into a time that would work for them. But they all were eloquent in their story about the experience they enjoyed doing the writing up the stories that we had them do for the award.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What a great idea. Love that. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Tom. Any further comments on the SUP Student Scholarship resource then? Any other ideas that you have done, or maybe some ideas that you think may work in the future that would expand our relevance of that resource?
Kyle, maybe I can mention one other thing too that Tippinoga's chapter does quickly. We also have an elementary school scholarship program, and this year 6 of our chapter members donated $100 each and selected an elementary school. And we had Mark Besant, who's our chair of the project, took that member into that elementary school, and the students write little short Utah histories about pioneers and so forth. But Mark presents, we have 3 winners, first, second, third place in the classrooms. Mark presents $20 to the third place winner in $5 bills. He presents $30 to the second place winner, and in $5 bills, he gives the first place winner $50. The parents and the elementary school personnel have just literally bent over backwards to allow us to do that.
Oh,
Just
that
a
is
tremendous program. The response we've got on that, again, the Alpine School District is just loving what we're doing.
That is tremendous. What a valuable, relevant resource that is hitting the mission statement all over the place on this. That's awesome. That is awesome. Great. Thank
We
you.
in the Salt Lake chapter for scholarships have decided that the scholarships we give are need scholarships. I've been involved with the other organizations for 40, 50 years that give scholarships, and we used to give it to the outstanding student, but so did everybody else give it to the outstanding student. And I went to the graduation and they'd have $50,000, $60,000 worth of scholarships. So we changed and went to needs scholarships. And it's been very, very humbling because we get a lot of minority people that come in and they admit that they would not go on to college if they didn't have the help of this scholarship. And their parents are excited to think that their son is or daughter is going to be the first person ever in their family to go on to college. And so we've enjoyed the change from the best student to the neediest student to give scholarships for. It maybe doesn't have as big of impact in the community, and maybe the dad's not going to join the SUP, and maybe the publicity, because it's not a well-known person, is not as great. But for local feelings and satisfaction, we get great joy out of it.
So let me ask you this, Dill. Is there a way to take what you're doing and enlarge that into the community? Is there a way that again, coming to know our fathers, is there a way to say something like, you know, we want you to come and present about your fathers. What is your situation? How are you? How is this? You know, that is almost in line with honoring a present day pioneer, where you're saying here you are. We're going to give you a scholarship, but one of the reasons we're doing it is because you're a modern day pioneer. And you know, I just think, is there a way to get that into the paper? Is there a way to get that into, I don't know. There's just, that is such a great other twist to an outstanding element. What can we do to even expand that resource?
Well, I mean, we can do that. And it's just a matter of more publicity, and of course the school works out great with you and the individuals, but it just takes some more thinking of best ways to get exposure.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, Dill. That is great. Great. Good. John Smith, let's go back to the library comment that you made earlier. You talked about how has a local chapter and individual members in the community been used or been benefited by the library as we seek to do the 4 mission statement elements. How can a local chapter use or be benefited by the library resource in a better way? What do you see we can do to increase the relevance of that resource in our chapters?
So far, some of the chapters have asked me to come and talk about the library. So we've had an opportunity to talk to different chapter members, and most of them are surprised at how much information that we have at the library that is, they didn't expect that we even had a library, okay, in the first place. So our library, this particular library has unique opportunities for service. Chapters can send individuals to come and serve to help preserve the records that we have. I think I mentioned once, or to several people, that 75% of the biographies that we have are not on Family Search because there's copyright issues. And so because of that, they're not really available online or on the website. So those books were donated by chapter members, and I feel like most all of us are related. Because of all of the intermarriages that you see as we go through the different documents that have been provided to us, the books, probably half of Utah is related to me. And I believe that probably that's the same situation with most of the Sons of Utah Pioneers, that we're all related somewhere. Histories and documents of what has been done by our pioneer heritage, our ancestors. One of the things that the library has tried to do is we are working on the Pioneer magazine, and we're going article by article and trying to index those articles. Because I have lots of questions from people of, well, do you have something on hand carts? Do you have something on these busks? And what about your paintings that you have in the building? Well, the Pioneer magazine has a lot of that information, but it's so difficult to get to through the resources that we have right now. You have to do a lot of searching. And that's one of the things that the library is trying to do, is it's trying now to make it available so that members, chapters, any potential members, that they can find the things that they're looking for about our ancestors. And I sent a request in today to see if we could expand SUP Online and SUP 1847, so that a lot of these areas, like the Pioneer magazine and the newsletters, all of those could have indexes on our website so people can go in there and do some searching. And if we can get that out to everyone, then it'll be a greater resource than it is now, because they can do it from their home. They can see what we have in our indexes, like the card catalog, and then they in turn can contact us, and we can give them that information that they're looking for. If there's a book or a history they want to look at, we can do that through our Dropbox program. The other thing that happened with the library is, can I just mention about our chapter? Our chapter took on the responsibility of helping with the encampment. And so I'm moving away from the library, but our committee, our members of our chapter all got involved in helping on documenting the lives of different people who came in the wagon trains in 1847. And I think I showed that to you on our table. We had a table with all of that information, and in the encampment, there were tables that had the same things. So some of you have seen that information, but that was something that I asked, because I was the chapter president of the Jordan River Temple chapter. I asked individuals and if they would go in and look at a list of people from the wagon trains, and they would go in and they would actually pick out 10 people. And it didn't matter whether it was a man or a woman or a child. They took a picture, they went in there, and then they did some research on it and provided it to the encampment. So it gave us a history that we probably didn't have before, of who came across besides the ones that we normally know about that came across the plains, usually those that were in the Vanguard Company. So our mission here is not only to let people in national know what we have or what we can do, but I think it brought our chapter close together, and it helped us feel like that we were really doing something to know about our fathers.
It wasn't just something to do. There was a purpose. You were more than building a ship and a road. You were bonding with fellow sons and daughters of pioneer ancestry, and and locals and preserving memory and coming to know fathers and turning our hearts to them. And there's such a beautiful, beautiful richness that comes when we're doing it for a right reason. So that's awesome, John. Thank you.
You know, Roy and can probably say something about it. He was also one who was doing some of the research, and Ron Hardy has been doing a lot of digitizing and indexing. Maybe they have an opinion about how they felt about this involvement. Do you guys want to say something?
Well, I think this is Ron Hardy. I think that one of the motivations for me in being involved in that project was by we can accomplish some of the missions of our organization by preparing information and making it available not only to people within the SUP, but also outside of our organization. And just like the scholarships and other things we've talked about tonight, and make things available in presenting the qualities and some of the ideas that our pioneer forefathers held, we can do that through the library also. And so it's a similar concept in expanding the resources of the library as some of the other resources we've talked about tonight, I think.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Can I say something?
Please.
I wrote down on my pad when you started out, get the members involved. Many years ago, like 10 or 11, when I was national president, I thought that was the way to do it. And so the results was I would ask if they had sons or daughters or anybody, or mainly sons or uncles or aunts or somebody like anybody, a relative in a particular place that we had a chapter, we would go visit with them and invite them to our chapter meeting. And or if there wasn't a chapter there, but you've got a son living up in Bear River, let's see if he might be interested in starting a chapter. And it was really hard to get the members involved. They were really hesitant for some reason to share their relatives and their family and so on. But those who did had a marvelous experience. And we built 4 chapters, and all from recommendations of somebody, existing person in the Sons of the Utah Pioneers, who told about a relative or a good friend that they had in another community that didn't have a chapter. And getting them involved is really good, because it's just such a great program, and they can vouch for it, and they can give us some names of people who know that it's a good program because their family's involved in it, or their father or son or whatever. And we need to figure out a way to get people to loosen up a little bit and share the message of SUP with some relatives and good friends.
Can I say another thing, Kyle?
Absolutely.
On potential SUP members. And I went down to Mesa this year, and my cousin who lives in Mesa, I invited him to the Mesa chapter, and he really enjoyed it. And that night he joined the Sons of Utah Pioneers, and then he was eligible to get one of the magazines, which happened to be on northern Arizona, which is where all of my relatives were sent by Brigham Young to Snowflake area.
We lose you, John?
Looks like we lost you, John. Well, John hopefully hops back on. Brethren, I want to keep this conversation going where you would like to for the next 5-10 minutes, but I would like to just suggest something. You know, and to Dill's point, the more we can get members involved, the more that we are reaching out. And it's not about us consuming the Pioneer magazine. It's about us using the magazine. It's not about us consuming the Pioneer Day Award. It's about us leveraging the Pioneer Day Award and using others and getting people involved. It's not about just attending chapter meetings. It's infusing ideas about greater chapter meetings. It's not about just having access to the monuments and historical markers. It's about using them and benefiting people from them. It's not about having pioneer era structures. It's about using those structures to benefit and to come to know fathers and preserving memories. We have so many resources, brethren, and we are doing great things. That's the beautiful thing about this, is that we are doing great things. But I can look at this list of resources and I can say, I can see us in the 2 years that I have been in this chapter, I see us doing the same thing, because we do it a certain way because that's the way the chapter has done it, and that's the way I was trained to do it. I think we have to think outside the box. Just because we've done it that way doesn't mean it can't be improved. Just because it works right now doesn't mean there's something else that we can't add to it to make it even a little bit better. That's the whole purpose of this presentation, is to get us to think a little bit further, a little bit more, a little bit greater. We are doing really good things. We need to do a little bit better and maybe even just a little different as we continue to move forward. Does that make sense? Is that a fair assessment or statement, or am I wrong?
Kyle, I think it's a great statement, but as I think about it, under your possible people involved, we're missing one category, and that's wives of SUP members.
Excellent.
And as an example, in the Timpanogos chapter of the 90 members that we've currently had, my sweet wife has been the #1 getter for new members of our chapter. She has brought in somewhere between 9 and 10 members through her quilting group, through her 3 times a week swimming aquatic thing down at the rec center, and through her American Fork lunch bunch. She has brought 9 or 10 members into the chapter, 3 of which, by the way, have become officers over the years.
Very good idea.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, brethren, I want to close my portion of the meeting by inviting all of us as leaders to take a look at this list of resources and the possible people involved. And I hope that you've been stirred up enough to say, you know, that is a resource that our chapter can leverage a little bit more. That is a resource that we're strong in this area, but in this area, I think we can improve upon it and then go back to the basics of what is the resource? What is the resource trying to get us to ultimately do in the mission statement sentence? And who can be benefited by it or use it better so that we can really raise this resource as a tool that will just strengthen the people around us and our chapters. So that's my challenge to each of us in leadership, is to identify where we can improve. What resource do we have that can be leveraged a little bit more in our chapters to bless all involved in some way or manner? I am so grateful to belong to this organization. I am grateful for all of the resources that are available to both bless me and that I can use to bless others. And that is fun. I enjoy blessing others. And when SUP has all these resources that I benefit from, it's an easy thing to then say, come share in this joy with me, and use that and leverage that resource to bless other people's lives. So, gentlemen, I hope that training was, again, nothing new, but just a recalibration of some ideas and some desires of increasing our vision of what we can accomplish as an organization. So we'll now turn the time over to National. John and your group, whoever else is with you, we'll let you take the remainder of the time.
Kyle, thank you very much. You've, in some ways, kind of taken the wind out of a lot of our sails, but we will continue on because a lot of what we were going to say is what you brought up. So thank you very much for that. We're down to just a couple of us tonight, so you're going to hear. We'll have John Eldred talk about the finances. Then we'll have myself. I'll talk about the chapter awards of excellence, kind of do a recap and a closing up. So John, if you're ready.
I am ready. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm going to share my screen in a few minutes. First of all, our discussion we've had so far talked about our assets and resources of SUP. We have three expensive assets that belong to SUP, that belong to the membership. One is this building, a national building. Second is our SUP research library. And third is our Pioneer magazine. Each of those three are completely not fully utilized, but they're big assets and priority use for the membership and for the in bringing in new members and in education. We have our building. We do rent out to different organizations. We set priority for SUP members to use for their families, for their associations, for their chapter meetings, considerably less than we rent it out to anybody else. Even members that are outside of our area, if they would like to bring in their chapters or their families for a reunion or something like that, it's available for them to use. Our Pioneer magazine, we've had to do some adjustments in this in the last couple of weeks because of inflation and COVID and everything like this. The price of producing the Pioneer magazine has gone up over 30% in the last year or so. Our magazine used to cost us $4 to $4.50 to produce. In the last year, the magazine has cost us over $6 per magazine. So in the last couple of weeks, we've had to raise our subscription prices. It was $25 per year. We've raised it to $35 a year for a single year. It was for $45 for 2
John,
years.
it was $30, not 35.
You're right, I'm sorry. It's $45 for 2 years, and it's raised to $55. Our single magazine cost, which we do sell quite a few of, our new magazines 2 years old and younger, we were selling for $6 per edition or per magazine. We've had to raise that to $8 per magazine. Each of those are magazines that are 4 years older, and that we're selling for $4. We've raised it to $4.50. This is a matter of being able to produce them reasonably. The last time we did the raise of the rates, we also raised membership dues for the members. We're not going to touch that this time, which I think everybody will be pleased with. We're going to remain annual at $60. Our life membership will still be $600. So that's a bit of information that you needed to know, because people are going to be talking about that. Now, a couple of other things. We're coming up to the end of the year. We're going to, let's see if I can find it here. I can't. Anyway, we're coming up to the end of the year where we're going to be required to have file an audit form with the IRS. And so these were in your packet that Pat sent out to all of you. Would you please take a look at those? They're due into our office here by February 15th, just before the chapter president council. There's also a form that any of you that have expenses where you've had to expend sales tax in the state of Utah, the form, if you fill that out and send it in to us, we will file and return and get that money back from the state for sales tax that you spent over this last year. We need that by the end of the year if you possibly can do that. Okay, we have now I can share. Okay, we have our membership form, which we have a life membership, which is one payment of $600, or it can be 2 payments of $300 within 12 consecutive months. We have our annual membership, which is essentially covers everybody else, male members, of $60 per year, and as long as they pay their annual dues on their anniversary. Then we have our new family and friends initial of $35, which is the amount that any new member will pay for their first year. And then at that point on their anniversary, we'll go to the $60 as an annual member. We also have associate membership for the widows of any SUP member, if they desire to do so, is $25 a year, which includes the magazine and full participation in the chapter activities of the SUP of the chapter they're in. Okay, then we have one other form of membership that a lot of you have probably never heard of, particularly the newer members. It's called our National Heritage Sustaining Membership. And this is part of our membership base. It's in our bylaws, and it is a special authorization sustaining heritage sustaining membership for those that would like to pay their regular payment to National by either their checking account or their credit card. They can do this by filling out the form that I show you here, and I believe it's in the packet that Pat sent you also. There's some advantages to this. If you pay $260 a year in regular donations through this method, you are receive a certificate as a sustaining membership for SUP, a membership card also, your annual national dues are paid out of this, will be taken out of this, so you won't be paying those separately. And then there are some advantages also that you'll receive discounted or free tickets to some of the chapter or the national activities like the symposium or the National Christmas Dinner or SUP Super Duper Day. These are benefits that come only by using this authorization form and becoming a sustaining heritage member. If any of you have any questions about it, please contact me or Pat, and we'll see that it's taken care of for you. Is there any questions of anything that I've said? Any questions about finances for national? Okay, John, it's back to you.
Thank you, John. Hey, John, do you have the Award of Excellence you can put on the screen?
Yes,
Would you do that for us?
you bet.
Kyle, I really appreciate you bringing up the Award of Excellence and going over it. That's one of the things I'd asked Nate Pierce to do, but he is had some eye surgery today and didn't feel like he could be part of it tonight. But I'll go over some of this stuff that is on there. But we want to work with excellence. My boss at work right now says, I don't want to come in second. The second is the first loser. So we always want to be on the number one and on the top line. And we need to use these awards and these checklists as ways of seeing how we are operating as a chapter. As Tom will attest, and many of the other ones who are scouters will attest, that we used to have in the scouting program award of excellence, or not award, what was it called, Tom? It was a quality unit award, wasn't it?
Yep.
This quality unit award was a checklist of what you, as a troop were doing, or unit, and to see how you're performing. What this chapter excellence award is basically a checklist for you to use to help is of where you can go and where you're weak or where you're strong. This last week in the Snow Horse chapter, I put our AVP on the hot seat and I said, I want you to go through this Award of Excellence for us and check off and see how you think we are doing as a chapter. And we identified a couple of areas where we felt we have some weaknesses and things that we need to do to help us. And so if we can look at that and use that not as a hammerhead or something to make us feel like we're not accomplishing something, but something to help us stretch ourselves and our goals. There are 5 or 4 basic areas that we want to work on in the Excellence Awards. John keeps moving them on me, so I'm
Okay, I'm sorry. They're set.
But the Pioneer Values, we talked about Modern Pioneer Awards. You know, a lot of us, and I've been guilty of it too, look at the Modern Pioneers as just those within our chapter. We need to stretch ourselves a little bit and look beyond our chapter to modern pioneers out in the community. In doing so, we can honor maybe the mayor or the librarian or the historian for the town we meet in as a means of getting them to understand what we are and publicize them. We're doing that. We have the opportunity of having the historian or the curator And we're going to try and get the mayor to become, or the new director of the museum. And so we're trying to stretch it out in the community a little bit. Same thing with identifying people or kids in the youth. We talked a lot about the scholars like that. But we don't necessarily have to do scholarships, but they can be stuff that would be of good public interest to them. Kind of like that program I was telling you that we had for the SUP, or for the Boy Scouts, which can be used for the young men. So we need to look at those and see ways we can switch our efforts there. Strengthen the membership and the leadership. Our leadership in our chapters are going to be only as strong as our leaders and as ourselves. And we have to realize that at some time and some point in our life, we are going to not be there to fulfill those responsibilities. So we need to train someone to come up and fulfill our shoes and our chair. And that can be through the training that we're having today, our executive council meetings, through our chapter council meetings that we will have in February. But we need to keep bringing someone up so that we continue to do that. And we have different areas where you can make sure that you're doing those things and make sure that you have people coming, and also to keep having your chapter meetings. I know it's been hard with COVID, brethren, but COVID's over. Let's put it behind us and let's take the precautions we need to and continue to have good, strong meetings. The next one is communication excellence. You know, it's hard to communicate with people that you don't know. One thing that, and let them know that I'm concerned about them. That helps to make the people feel comfortable and welcome in areas. Not words, but the handbooks and the different things that they can have. Also, it's important to communicate with the public service and other people where we can get our name out in the media. And so those are all different ways we can communicate. The other one is giving gift subscriptions to this Pioneer magazine. I was in my dentist office the other day and I've been giving magazines to him. And he finally had one out on his counter for all those who are waiting in his waiting office to do. So there's easy ways to do it and fun ways to do it. Then preserving our historical heritage. A lot of the chapters have multiple not museums, but monuments that they take care of, and or looking at possibility doing new ones. And that's some areas where we can do it. Repairing or keeping a monument clean might be just a matter of going and cleaning off the bird droppings off the top or the weeds from around it, or doing those things. But if you get people together and you start rubbing shoulders in a different way than in a meeting, your friendships and understanding of that individual will grow. And John has said, always looking for people in the library to help. So the projects that you come up with, but think about it and try to do that. And I was Ward of Excellence. Don't come in first, the first loop, be the #1 person. So take the effort to look at that, and UAVPs take the chance to go down and rate your units that you're working with in your chapters and talk to them about where you think they need to be, where they're weak at. Tom is going to talk to us about our national calendar and some of the activities that are coming up, so I'll turn the time over to him.
Thank you, President. I think John's going to bring up the 2022 calendar, which is almost gone. We have just very few things left, a national board meeting, a Christmas party in December. So John, let's go to the 2023 calendar, if that's okay. You guys, I want to just comment on several things. We have regular national meetings. We have an executive council meeting twice a month. We have a board meeting once a month. We have a Pioneer Magazine committee meeting once a month. We have finance meetings 4 times yearly. We have past president's council meetings 5 times a year. And I say, why do I tell you that? Because you as chapter leaders, chapter officers can be involved in those meetings to the extent if you have needs, if you have suggestions, ideas that you can pass on to the national office. Those are the meetings that we discuss those things. We discussed just Wednesday a chapter's contract with the Forest Service on one of its monuments. That's an individual chapter thing that we talked about, and you can present ideas to those various meetings that are important too. But there's other meetings that, for instance, the chapter president's council meeting, I want to point out it's February 25th. You as a chapter president and possibly other officers in past years have attended that meeting. That's where we get down to the nuts and bolts about training you and giving you the very latest update on some of the things that are happening in the Sons Utah Pioneers. I'd like to drop down to April 15th, Cleanup Day. That's a week before the National Symposium. Cleanup Day is a lot of fun. I haven't been there every year, but when I have gone, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It just gives me a good feeling to get a little bit sweaty and make the place, our headquarters and its surrounding, a little bit better place. But I want to say something about the National Symposium on April 22nd. That's an event that we should be bringing not only chapter members to, but guys, we ought to also be bringing our friends and our neighbors to that meeting too. I know there's a limitation on how many dinners we can provide and things like that, but that's a great opportunity to bring potential members into Sons Utah Pioneers. The symposiums that my wife and I have attended have been absolutely outstanding, excellent. Next year's will be on Zion's Camp. It's already being starting to be planned as far as speakers and that type of thing. And it's just a very well produced event. We don't want you to schedule chapter events on any of the national events simply because they're an opportunity for you as chapter leaders to expand your own influence with your own members of the chapter. So the National Symposium is April 22nd. Then in July, Super Duper Day. I don't know how many of you have been to that. I've been with my family in the past, with my wife. This year, we had the piano guys be the entertainment. I shouldn't say entertainment because they were the spiritual message of the day. Done a very well program. In past years, we've had general authorities speak. There is a very nice discount for wandering around the park. But again, it's an opportunity to bring family and friends to introduce them to the national organization and possibly joining. July 22nd will be the days of 47 sunrise service, and also, as you know, the days of 47 parade. Those are a little bit harder to take individuals to possibly, but still there on the calendar. I want to talk about the September 7th through the 9th National Encampment in St. George. Gosh, national encampments, as those of you that have attended them, have been well worth it. Now, my wife and I, quite frankly, go to national encampments simply because we also enjoy the extracurricular activities, the treks, the tours, the places to visit while we're in those locations. St. George will be absolutely wonderful. They've planned an excellent program and incidentally, if you take members of your chapter to a national encampment, I'm going to recommend that at the meals, you do not sit together. as a Boy Scout executive, I would make sure I'd take 10 or 14 different board members to National Boy Scout meetings. And I would tell them before they went, if I see you sitting with anybody in our council at any meetings, except for the national banquet at the closing session, where I will get the seating for you and we'll sit together as a group. But if I see any of you sitting together, I'm going to be kind of upset with you, because I want you sitting with other council officers and glean from them what they're doing in their council, take their ideas, share our ideas. And I think our national encampment is a great way to do that. Fellowship, going on tours with other individuals and talk about what they're doing, talk about what we're doing too. Our chapter area vice president training for chapter officers will be in October again, the 14th, 23rd, and 26th, as you can see on the agenda, the calendar too. So I guess the thing I'd plead with you, fellows, is use national events, as Kyle would tell us, as a resource to fulfill the mission of the Sons of Utah Pioneers. These events are excellent, they're outstanding, and they're really geared to uplift and benefit us in local chapter. Not me as an officer of the chapter necessarily, but they're there to benefit me as a member of a chapter in the national organization of Sons of Utah Pioneers. So please don't plan chapter events on top of national events. It's your members' opportunity to rub shoulders, to gain ideas, and to just have a marvelous experience. And I think, unless you have any questions, that would be my plea to you.
Thank you, Tom. One thing, if you look at the national calendar before John takes it down, we were requested to put the national events in a bold print so it could be seen better. So those national events are things that we have got planned, and we would really appreciate you not over the top of them, so that your chapter members can have the opportunity of attending those items and those events that we've got planned. Also, one other thing is a sidelight, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for the 24th of July celebration from now on, they're going to do it on the Saturday closest to the 24th. Is that correct?
That is correct. They find that they can get more families there on the Saturday, because there's so many national firms that have to work on the 24th here in Utah. So they're going to have the celebration, sunrise service, and the parade activity on the Saturday.
Okay. The one thing that Tom didn't mention was in April, we're going to start for nominations for president-elect. So be thinking about people within your chapters that you feel could fulfill that responsibility and put their names forward. And we'll proceed with that and do the interviews that we need to with those people that are nominated. Now in closing, we've been doing several things on the national level that I hope you guys would appreciate and understand. And as a preface to that, I know a lot of you have seen the movie Fiddler on the Roof, and where it starts out, you find Tevier walking to the different people in his community, and he goes up to one and says, "Why do you do that?" "I don't know. I guess it's tradition." He goes to the next one and he says, and that everything that they do is based on traditions or things that they've done in the past. And then he goes on to talk about how their life is very much like a fiddler on the peak of a roof, where he's trying to balance, whether it be from falling one way or the other. Brethren, I think we are some ways in the same point as that fiddler on the roof. We are balanced. We're trying to maintain where we're at and trying to grow and having a vision for the future. As a means for a vision, we have looked at to emphasize and use as our goals and vision for the next 5 years for the Sons of the Utah Pioneers. Now, these goals, we have 4 major areas that we're going to be looking at, and they're not static. They're going to be dynamic. They can change. And then during the year, we will look at each individual goal and try to emphasize some of the importance of those. One that we know is very important is the increase of our membership. We at the national board said, well, what do we want to be in 5 years? And we said, we want to get back to where we were before COVID. Now would put us at about 2,500 members. That's about 500 members a year increase. And everybody looks at me and say, well, that sounds doable, but let's stop back a little bit. How many are we going to lose during that 5 years? So we figured that we're going to have to increase somewhere between 150 and 200 a year to achieve that goal. And we're going to come and be more publicly recognized, that we can share with us, whether it's with the newspapers, whether it's with social media, whether it's with doing parades or sponsoring things like the Super Duper Day or things like that. We feel that we need to have our face and our outlook be more publicly recognized. And also the fact that we don't need to have pioneer heritage to become part of the Sons of the Utah Pioneers. So that is another area that we're trying to look at and trying to achieve. And we'll again look for ideas from the AVPs and from the chapters, and we hope that you guys will send information and ideas back to us. The third area that we want to be emphasized and use as our goal is to become more fiscally responsible or more fiscally stable. And by that, I mean that somewhere down the road, I'd like to see us to the point where if we have enough money in an endowment account so that we know that we have $20,000 in interest to work on down the road for the next year, so we don't have to be worried about it. I know it's kind of a lofty goal to get to that point, but we're going to try and come up with ideas to increase 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4% a year. We haven't made a complete decision on that, but we want to come up with something somewhere so that we're more stable financially. And last of all, we want to, as a national and executive boards, we want to be more visible and support the local chapters more faithfully, whether it be through national activities, whether we come and talk to your chapters, whether we take your input and try to implement goals and desires and means whereby we can help that your chapters become stronger and more stable and more robust. And those are the areas that we're looking at as our long-term goals. Each one of those long-term goals, we were going to go down and subdivide into yearly goals. Yes, you had a
Can I
question?
make a comment?
Sure.
Okay. On you say national things that chapters could take part of. One of the hard things that we find to do is if we want to do a trek, to get a bus and fill it with 45 people is often very difficult. But if it were a larger thing, several chapters, that could work a lot better and make it more local, not go to the East Coast, but go, somewhere in the area. It would sure help us.
And that's something that I would ask that the AVPs look at and try to coordinate with the chapters in their areas. It doesn't need to be a big bus either. I know that some of the chapters, like the Ogden chapter, will take, after their meal, they'll take a couple of cars and go do some of the sites within the Ogden area. The Snow Horse chapter went to a library and had a discussion about a cabin that was moved from Kaysville from Layton. And then we went as a small trek over to the cabin. So treks don't have to be large and need to fill up a bus, but they can't. So there's a lot of things you can do that way. But those are some of our goals. Is there any other comments on those goals? Well, I've got you all quiet.
John, let me just make a comment on the financial aspect of this, because finance is always a very delicate thing. And in the past, I know that we as an organization have kind of done that occasionally wrong. But our purpose in presenting a 5-year vision for our financial organization is not only to become stable, as John has mentioned, but to also to be a resource, as Kyle would mention, to the members of all of our chapters. As for instance, when we talk about endowment, we've got 2 or more excellent individuals that are willing to help us on estate planning. Now, I was in my Boy Scout work for 38 years, had a lot to do with financing. And I knew that a good estate planner could help individuals with their estate planning to not only benefit the posterity, their family, but also benefit organizations. It's kind of interesting. I talked to Steve Crewman about this the other day. Let's say you have an estate of $1 million. You say, well, I don't want the government to get my estate for 2 million or whatever it is. Through proper, careful, considerate estate planning, you can actually give that $1 million away to a charitable organization. But at the same time, you can also provide your posterity for $1 million also, even though you start with $1 million. So the thing I'm suggesting is a good estate planner knows how to very properly, and I'll say very legally, it's been done for decades of time, help us as individuals in ensuring the security of not only the Sons of Utah Pioneers, but the security of our family members also.
And yourself.
Yeah, it's an amazing process to watch, whether it's a charitable remainder trust, a unit trust, just a number of different type of vehicles, including insurance involvement, things like that. But it's something that I know it's a careful thing to discuss, but when you have individuals in your chapter that feel like they need a little bit of help on estate planning, think about Sons of Utah Pioneers and how we can help them.
Yeah, and Steve is more than willing to do that. And also, just so you're aware, with the financial planning, we have recruited a new financial advisor to replace one that has, due to health issues, has had to resign. And he would be more than willing to work with us and will help us in all those ways. The other thing that you're going to find with me this year is I'm trying to look and emphasize the mission statement of the Sons of the Utah Pioneers. You'll see me in my Trail Marker magazine. I'm going to give you goals and ideas to work on each one of those different mission statements or qualities and ideas as for the month comes up. As my mission president used to say, he says, when you go home, I want you to go home, give your mission report. I want you to stand up, speak up, and shut up. And so at this point in time, I'm going to follow his advice and shut up, and I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. But the other one thing I would like to say before we go is I want to thank all of you presidents, board members, executive board members, for all the things that you do to support the Sons of the Utah Pioneers and for the love of the pioneers. Love you all. And I pray that the Lord will be with you and bless you in your endeavors.
Hey,
Bill?
John,
Yes, Bill.
I missed goal number 2. You were breaking up on me.
Goal number 2 was to become more publicly viable or put our face more out in front of the public.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Kyle?
Wonderful. Thank you, John and Tom and everybody else that's here tonight. So, and John Elgren, thank you. So, does anybody have any final comments or questions that are on your mind or in your heart right now that we need to address before we sign off for the evening? I don't want to leave any stone unturned.
I'm muted.
No, you're going.
10 years ago, we went to St. George for the encampment. We had over 300 people and it was a wonderful event. And I think that that's a marvelous part of taking people along, taking our members that haven't been or aren't hesitant to go to do it. We had it in Salt Lake, and I think we had 10%, maybe 180 members, and we can do better. And the symposium, we used to have 300 people. We can do better. And it's a matter of the chapter presidents and the AVPs making it exciting and worthwhile and pushing it and helping to bring people there. I think that will help the enthusiasm within our members in exchange if they get involved with some national programs. Thank you.
As a highlight on that, and Tom didn't bring it up, but they have a commitment right now from Elder Holland to be the keynote speaker at that symposium. As you know, general authorities have things that can change and will change, but they do have that set up. He is from that area and he's a personal friend of the gentleman that's chairing it. So
That will
that's
be
a good
the
draw.
St. George encampment.
Right. So that's a good draw. Kyle?
Excellent. Thank you, Dill. Anybody else?
Kyle, is there a way your presentation can be shared with us?
Absolutely. John, can I send it to Pat and can she send it out?
We have recorded this session, which will be put on our website, and all of you will have access to it.
Okay, I
And-
guess I'll record the.
Okay.
And if you want, if you want the PowerPoint specifically, if take down my email address, it is andersonks@churchofjesuschrist.org. Again, it's Anderson, ANDERSONKS@churchofjesuschrist.org. And if you just shoot me off a quick email,
That's yours.
I'll go ahead and ship that off to you.
Does that
Thank you.
also include your narration, Kyle?
One
The
No,
recording that we have here
there
includes,
you go. Yeah,
yeah, whatever you want to do.
that'll be great. That'll be great. So,
Ready to go to staplers.
is there anything else, brethren? Okay, if not, again, I'm the new kid on the block, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make sure that I don't make too big a fool of myself. So I'm just grateful that you trust me to lead a discussion for an hour with you, and I appreciate your institutional knowledge and your experience and your dedication for all that you're doing. And so you're an inspiration to me, and I thank you for your service. I thank you for your examples, and I thank you for your dedication to such a great organization. And so as the new kid and the young kid on the block, I just want to say thank you. And what you do matters, and it is seen. So thank you so very much for all.
Thank you to you. Thank you very much to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another statement that I learned a long time ago. It was, you say I'm green, I say you bet. I hope I'm green a long time yet. But this eternal truth is oft forgot. This soon after right comes rotten. So I don't want any of us to be on the rotten side. I want us to be on the green side.
There you go. There you go. Well, brethren, you're wonderful. Thanks for all you do. I don't know you, Ned Arnold, but I just am and I'm feeling an impression to ask if you might give us a closing prayer tonight as we log off until next time. Would that be okay? Can you unmute yourself, Ned?
There we go.
There we go.
Our Father in heaven, we're so grateful, Heavenly Father, for our many blessings and for the great privilege it is to look at our heritage and help us, Heavenly Father, to find ways to help others to understand their heritage and help us, Heavenly Father, to be examples to others as we interact in the communities where we serve. We're grateful for all of the efforts of those in headquarters and those who help us to help our chapters to improve and we can look at our own mission statements and help us, Heavenly Father, to understand and implement the values of this wonderful organization. We pray a blessing on our church leaders. We pray a blessing on our families, that they'll have insight and promptings of the Spirit on how to conduct their lives. Again, Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this evening and the information that we've received. And we say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ned.
Thank you, everybody.